In the next few seconds you will hear a story that can break every wall inside your mind, a story that begins with pain but ends with a fire so bright that even destiny bows to it. This is not just a story. This is a reminder that the world only respects those who refuse to fall. There was a girl named Aisha. She lived in a small town. Her dreams were huge like mountains, but her life was full of struggles. She had only one wish. She wanted to become a police officer. She wanted to lift her family out of the darkness. She wanted to show the world that even a girl with nothing can rise with everything inside her heart. Aisha was in 12th grade when she told her mother the words she had been hiding inside for years. She said, "Ami, I want to continue my education and I want to become a police officer. I want to make you proud." Her mother looked at her with soft eyes, but there was fear behind that softness because they had no money, not even enough for basic needs. How could they pay for university? Aisha kept studying, she kept praying, but her mother knew that dreams do not grow without sacrifice. So one morning the mother gathered all her courage. She opened her small wooden box, and inside it were 3 tolas of gold, the only treasure she had kept from her own wedding. She held them in her hands and whispered a prayer. Then she sold the gold for 9 lakh rupees and went to the university to submit the admission fee. But the fee was 10 lakh, 1 lakh more than what they had. The mother pleaded. The staff listened, but rules were rules. A professor finally said, "You can go home and study from there. You may only come to give exams, no regular classes, no campus life, no guidance." Aisha felt her throat close. She could not cry, she could only nod and walk away. She returned home broken, but her mother held her face and said, "My daughter, patience is the key. Allah will open a door. You just keep moving." Aisha studied at home alone with no teacher, no support. And when the first exam came, she gave everything she had, but she failed. She walked back home with tears burning inside her. But her mother again said, "My daughter, patience, everything will be fine." A full year passed. The second exam arrived. She tried again. She failed again. The world around her began to whisper. People said she was wasting time. People said a girl like her can never become an officer. People said failure is her destiny. But her mother never stopped believing. Then came the third attempt. Aisha tried again. She failed again. This time the pain was too much. She did not go home. She called her mother and said, "Ami, I cannot return, not like this, not until I become successful. I will not step into that house until I make you proud." Her mother cried silently, but she did not stop her. She said, "My daughter, if this is your path, then walk it with courage." Aisha moved to a small room near the city. She worked part-time. She studied day and night. She had no comfort, no friends, no breaks, only a dream and a fire that refused to die. She prayed, she fought, she cried, she pushed herself through nights that felt endless, and finally after another year the 4th exam arrived. She entered the hall with a heart that carried years of pain. She wrote every word with the weight of her mother's sacrifices burning inside her chest, and when the result came out she stood there trembling because her name was at the very top, first position. The girl who failed 3 times became the girl who topped the district. Soon after she cleared the final interview and training with honor, and she became the deputy commissioner of her area. The same girl who once studied outside the university gates was now the highest authority in the region. When she received her official posting, the very first thing she did was visit the same university that had refused to allow her regular classes. She stood before the board. She looked around at the students and staff, and she gave an order that changed hundreds of lives. She announced that for the next 5 years the university would offer 50% free education to students who came from poor families. She said, "No student will suffer the way I did not while I stand here today." Her mother watched from the crowd, tears falling from her eyes, pride shining like the sun, and Aisha finally whispered, "Ami, I told you I would return only when I succeeded, and today I brought success big enough for both of us." This is the journey of a girl who refused to stop, a girl who turned her failures into fuel, a girl who proved that destiny does not choose you, you choose destiny, and you shape it with every step you take. If you are listening to this, remember this truth: your dreams are not too big, your problems are not too heavy, your future is not too far. Everything you need is already inside you. All you need is the courage to keep going. Aisha thought her journey ended when she became the deputy commissioner, but life had another path waiting for her, a path even harder and even more demanding, because success does not stop tests, it only increases them. After taking charge, Aisha began traveling across her district. She saw villages where children walked miles barefoot just to reach a school. She saw families who could not afford books. She saw students who worked at night to feed their homes and studied under streetlights in the morning. She saw her own past in their eyes, and her heart felt heavy with responsibility. One evening while returning from inspection, her car passed a narrow street. She looked outside and saw a small boy sitting under a broken lamp reading from a torn notebook. She stopped the car, stepped out, and slowly walked toward him. He looked up surprised because he recognized her uniform. She asked him what he was doing there. He said with a shy voice, "Madam, I want to study, but my father is a laborer. We cannot buy anything, so I use this old light to read." Aisha felt her chest tighten because she saw herself years ago sitting in the dark fighting for a dream. She went back home that night unable to sleep. Her mind kept replaying the image of the boy. She remembered her mother selling gold. She remembered the 3 failures. She remembered the humiliation. She remembered the nights she cried silently in a rented room. She whispered to herself, if I have climbed this mountain, I must build a bridge for others. The next morning she called a meeting. She announced a new plan. She said every government school in the district must receive proper lighting, clean classrooms, water facilities, and scholarships for deserving students. She ordered inspections. She pushed officers. She visited schools herself. She spent hours talking to students. She wanted them to feel that someone finally cared, someone finally understood. Weeks passed and the district slowly started changing. Teachers became more active. Classrooms grew brighter. Children smiled more. And hope began to rise again. But Aisha knew this was only the beginning. She wanted something bigger, something that would stay even after she left her post. She decided to start a mentorship program. She selected top teachers and invited successful officers from different departments. She created a team of people who would guide students through exams, interviews, confidence building, and career planning. She called it the Future Path Project, a project meant to turn dreamers into achievers. One day during a mentorship session, she found the same little boy sitting in the front row holding new books given by the team. His eyes were glowing with confidence. He stood up and said, "Madam, I want to become an officer like you. I want to help others the way you are helping us." Aisha felt her eyes become warm, her throat tightening, but she stayed firm because she knew this was her purpose. But while building hope, she faced challenges. People questioned her decisions. Some accused her of doing too much. Some tried to stop her. Some tried to pull her down. Jealousy and politics came like storms. But Aisha was not the girl who broke after 3 failures. She was the woman who rose after every storm. She worked quietly. She worked patiently. She worked with a heart full of determination. One night she visited her mother. Her mother placed her hand on Aisha's head and said, "My daughter, I always knew you had a fire inside you, but now I see that fire lighting the lives of others." Aisha hugged her mother and said, "Ami, everything I do comes from the sacrifice you made. You gave up the only gold you had to build my future. Now it is my turn to build futures for hundreds." Soon the news of her work began spreading. Students from far areas started writing letters. Parents prayed for her success. Teachers thanked her. Everyone felt the difference she created. And one day the university that once restricted her invited her as the chief guest for their annual ceremony. She stepped on the stage and the entire hall stood on their feet clapping for the girl they once sent home without guidance. She looked at the students and said, "I once stood outside these gates feeling helpless. Today I stand here as your chief guest because life changes when you refuse to stop. You may fail once, you may fail twice, you may fail 3 times, but failure only becomes permanent when you accept it. I never accepted it and neither should you." The hall fell silent. Her words cut deep into every heart. And in that moment hundreds of students felt their dreams become real again. Aisha left a mark not only on her district but on every young mind that heard her story. She proved that a girl with nothing can become a woman who gives everything to the world. She proved that success is not the end, it is the beginning of responsibility. She proved that when you rise you must lift others with you. This was just part of her journey, because her mission had only begun.